I want to talk for just a minute about how I have tailored the My Father's World kindergarten curriculum to make it fit for my family and my students. So let's jump into the weekly guide. And if we haven't met before, hi, my name's Erica Lynn, and I'm a homeschooling mom of 4, and it is my hope to help make homeschooling easy for you too. So let's talk about what we did to make the kindergarten level curriculum work for us. And if you don't know how to use the teacher's manual, check out this video here where I talk about how to read, tab, and use the My Father's World Teacher's Manual. It is full of so much good information. The first thing I like to do is on this table of contents page, I like to go through each unit and I like to write down the date of the Monday that we're going to actually start that unit week on the edge here in the guide. And you can either use Post-it notes or something to stick in here, or you can write it straight in your guide if you want to do that. This helps me to go through and look at my actual calendar and say, hey, are we actually going to be home? Are we going to be out of town on this week? Do we need to go ahead and know in advance we're not going to make it through this entire week worth of curriculum? That way, on the difficult weeks when, say, I have an older student at a sports nationals and I know we're not going to be doing school this week, we can either adjust and make that a skip week, or we can go in there and start cutting certain days. And so when I notice we are going to have a particularly difficult week to accomplish all 5 days of curriculum, then I want to immediately start cutting out things that we are going to be able to afford to skip. I'm usually going to cut out like day 2 or day 3 in the curriculum and skip that day to lighten the load for the week. You can also readjust that if you attend a community co-op once a week and a 5-day curriculum isn't going to work for you. You want to think that through in advance as well and go ahead and adjust it down to a 4-day curriculum and figure out what you're cutting from the beginning. The truth is, you do not have to complete everything in this curriculum to have accomplished an entire kindergarten year, or any grade level for that matter. There's always going to be some flex space for you here. So that's the first thing I like to do every summer, is start by noting what week this is going to land on my calendar and how much availability that week we will have for setting down and doing school. Now, when it comes to kindergarten, you can complete this curriculum in about an hour and a half a day, maybe even 45 minutes if you have a really focused student. And so I do not find it necessary to cut very much from this curriculum. Most of my kindergartners were excited. It's very hands-on. It's very craft-oriented. It was exactly what they were looking for. And so we did not have many issues with the workload being too heavy or too laborsome or too boring. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to gather all of my craft supplies over the summer. I am not organized enough, nor do I want to sit down once a week and figure out what crafts I need and run to the store and get them. I do not enjoy shopping, so this is a painful process for me. So at the bottom of every day in your guide, and yours looks slightly different from mine because mine's an older version, they have the supplies that you're going to need for that day's list. So I just made a shopping list and started at the beginning and flipped through the whole thing and wrote down all the supplies I was going to need for the whole year and went and got them all at one time over the summer. And I had a box that had all of my kindergarten craft supplies in it, and I was ready to go. The next thing that I kind of tailored is all of the singing. I am not musically talented. I do enjoy singing, but I oftentimes cannot find the beat or the melody, and I cannot hit the right notes. So every time they had me singing a song of some sort, I just pulled up YouTube and we sang it along with YouTube. And that was a super great hack to take a ton of stress off of me and help us all enjoy the process a lot better. The next thing I do, and this is kind of across the board for all of my homeschoolers, is I respect the fact that our minds can handle so much stress at a time before it starts shutting down. So every time I'm working with a student and I feel like we should be going faster and I'm ready to press on and move forward, but I can see that they are hitting a mental wall. Perhaps their eyes are clouding over. Their answers are much slower. They're struggling to understand something. I step back and I respect that their minds have been filled to capacity for the moment and they need what we like to call a brain break. And so Wherever we are in the day in the curriculum, when they hit a mental wall, we stop and we just pause everything we're doing, and I let them go play and have some sort of recess time. No technology, because that doesn't help your brain reset, but any other free play type activity I allow them to engage in as a moment for them just to release some of the stress and allow their body to relax before we try tackling it again. Here's my little hack for this. While they are playing and doing recess, I go and fix myself a cup of coffee. The reason I do this is twofold. One, if they've been having a bad attitude, that can sometimes affect my heart and drain me of energy. So the coffee will refill me and make me excited to start school again, as it gives me a lot of energy. And two, it sets a mental time block in my head. Once my coffee is brewed and I have mixed up my cup, it is time to start school again. We don't want our brain break to become so long that it disrupts our whole day and we never come back to school, or we come back to school so late that we don't have the mental energy anyways to finish it. It keeps our breaks really short, between 5 and 15 minutes, and then we are refreshed enough, we can start again. To piggyback off of the brain break, another thing I like to do is when we hit a wall, which oftentimes is going to be somewhere in the middle of our learning to read activities. Remember, this is a ton of new information. And they say kindergartners and first graders who are learning how to read and how to do numbers are learning more new information in those years of their life than you and I ever have to learn as adults. So it is overwhelming, even though it seems simple to you as the teacher. And so when we come back from our brain break, I'm not going to pick up where we were in the reading lesson. I'm going to skip down and pull out our craft or our fun activity. And we're going to start back with some sort of engaging fun activity. Once we've completed that, we'll move back up to the reading time and finish out the tasks from there. As a side note with that, just know you have the freedom to do these subjects in any order you want. You do not have to start at the top and work your way down the page. So we will mix it up, and sometimes I'll just come to the table and ask the students, which subject would you like to do first? And I'll just give them the options that they have for that grade level. And then they can pick what they want to do. But moving out of a difficult subject into a fun subject to relaunch into learning has been a huge help for my students. Okay, another thing that we do in our house is, as much as I love the crafts and the hands-on that the kindergarten curriculum is, sometimes I don't have the energy or the time or the mental space to enjoy the craft making and activity process. And so I just skip it. It is okay to skip something because you as the parent don't want to do it. Now, I try to make learning fun for my kids, so I don't want to skip their favorite parts every day of the week. But I give myself the relief too to know that this is for me also, and if I need to skip some sort of messy craft because I just don't feel like dealing with the mess today, that is okay too. I get to have needs as well as the student. And so crafts can be something that we skip. And as a little side note, sometimes later in the day, the kids will come to me and ask for a craft to do. And I'll just go back to the teacher's manual and pull out a craft that we have skipped from a previous week. And it can be very handy in that moment too. Okay, the last tip I have for you is one that we had to make for our students. And this is mostly to encourage you to recognize your students' limitations. So in the Learning to Read program, starting in the second half of the school year, they begin a worksheet called the word list page, where there's a list of words. The student reads the words and then has to go back and identify the words when you say it out loud. That worksheet was extremely difficult for all of my students across the board. All 4 of my students had a hard time remembering the word that they read and being able to recall it after reading 3 words in a row. So it's not that I didn't want them to learn that skill, but I had to recognize that this was stretching them past where they were enjoying learning, and we weren't getting better at it as the time went on. So eventually I scrapped that page completely. Now, you may like that worksheet, but you may find there's a different one that really is just too labor intensive for your students. So I want to empower you that if there's something that's not working, listen to that. change that, adjust it for your student. That's why you're homeschooling, so you can tailor the education 100% to each one of your students. This is a guide. This is not a law book. You do not have to do exactly what it says. And so cutting that word list page made all of my students super successful in the rest of their reading time, and it took a huge burden off of them, and we found they were just as great of readers without that page anyway. And those are the things that we tailored to make the My Father's World kindergarten curriculum work for our household. I hope that is helpful to you, and if you had things that you tailored, put them in the comments below to give other parents ideas and suggestions of how they can make this work and what kind of flexibility and freedom they have in homeschooling. I think that's super helpful to hear what other parents have done. I think it's inspiring, and it helps me to always think outside the box as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please put a heart in the comments below so I know you watched the whole video. That means the world to me. Thank you so much. You all have a blessed day. Bye-bye.